Hi, I'm Richard Rogers, and I absolutely hope that you enjoy today's spiritual message. You know, we at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center are committed to helping people live better lives. We're going to provide you tools over and over, spiritual tools that allow you to live your best possible life. And if you want to leave a donation to continue to allow the work that we do to support other people just like you, we say thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because this ministry is committed to making the world a better place.
So a woman came home, screeching her car into their driveway, and she ran into the house, and she slammed the door open and shouted at the top of her lungs to her husband, "Bill, pack your bags. I won the lottery." And her husband says, "That's amazing. What should I pack, beach stuff or mountain stuff?" And she says, "It doesn't matter. Just get out." No, that does not deserve any applause. I don't think any. But how many people ever had someone in your life that just for a moment at least thought you wanted them to just get out? Anybody ever had that? Okay, 4 people willing to admit it. How many people ever had a relationship that was toxic and unhealthy and kind of drained a lot of your energy? Anybody? Okay, a lot more have that. And how many people have an important relationship in your life that over time seemed to kind of deteriorate, and that you wish you could kind of renew it and improve it and get it back to that level of vitality and joy? Anybody have a relationship like that? You know, over the last 4 weeks, Reverend Rogers has been doing a great series called Spring Cleaning. And the whole idea behind spring cleaning, it's a time of renewing and refreshing and revitalizing by letting go of old things, by letting go of stuff that we hold on to that isn't always serving our best, stuff that we're not using, stuff that is not healthy, that is not helpful, that is not beneficial to us. And the reason we need spring cleaning is because human beings have a tendency to accumulate stuff. We have a tendency to hold on to stuff, hoarders of junk and hoarders of good stuff. And whether it's books or clothes or exercise equipment, we have closets full, garages, drawers, sometimes storage units with all kinds of stuff that takes up so much space and takes up so much energy. And it's not just physical clutter we collect, there's mental and emotional clutter, baggage that we carry, things that weigh our minds down, that we think over and over again. And the thing is, we don't realize it, but holding on to all that stuff, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, really weighs us down. And it blocks a lot of not only inner peace, but it blocks a lot of creative energy that we could be using to create a life that we really want. And so all this stuff, all this clutter, really prevents us from living the very life we want and creating what we want. And in the same way that we develop all kinds of clutter physically, mentally, and emotionally, we also do it in our relationships as well. That we hold on to all kinds of hurts. We hold on to all kinds of disappointments, you know, and frustrations in relationships. Sometimes we not only hold on to these things, sometimes we hold it against people in our lives, or our family, our friends. And we get to a place where we start holding back our feelings, holding back our needs, our wants, and our desires. You know, one of the things I think that's so powerful is that every time we hold back and every time we hold on to stuff in a relationship, it ends up dampening our joy and building a wall, a level of disconnect, a level of distance. And sometimes even in a relationship, we can feel isolated and alone because of these inner things that we end up holding on to. You know, relationships are life. They are the thing that make life most joyful and fulfilling and meaningful, but I think they could also make life the most painful and frustrating and difficult. You know, and any real relationship requires time. It takes effort and attention and energy. It takes, you know, a willingness to be present and to pay attention, to open our hearts, to be honest and to communicate, you know, and to truly share ourselves. And when we're holding on to all that different energies of all different kinds, it's hard to be fully present. It's hard to be fully engaged and open-hearted in our relationships. And we miss out by holding on to those things on the very level of connection and intimacy and fulfillment that we're actually seeking. And one of the questions that Reverend Rogers has asked every single week for the last 4 weeks is, would you rather keep holding on to that stuff and energy, or would you rather have what your real heart's desire is, knowing that you can't have both? And the truth is you can't have both. We can't stuff our lives by holding on to stuff because there's no room for anything new or fresh. There is no room for greater ideas or joy or possibility. And the truth of the matter, this whole idea about spring cleaning and letting go of the old to open up to the new, it's actually a law. It is a spiritual principle. Here's 2 ways that it's expressed. First, in the book of Revelation, it says, "Behold, the old has passed away, everything has become new." And that's a law. The old has to pass away for the new to be manifested and brought forth. We can't keep the old and all the stuff and bring it in because there is just no room for it. And another great one is from the Apostle Paul when he said, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And that basically says, don't get stuck in old patterns. Don't become complacent or lazy. Don't be into this hoarding and stockpiling stuff, whether it's good for you or not. But let it go so you can be renewed, that you can be refreshed, that you can open the door for your life to be transformed in greater and more wonderful ways. One of the problems about hanging on to the old stuff means you keep getting the same old stuff. Sometimes we want to hold on to our new stuff and get new stuff, and it does not work that way. You ever find patterns, like anybody who's dating, like you ever find yourself dating the same person over and over again? You end one and you really started, and there's that same person. Couples in relationship, you ever notice you have the same arguments over and over again? Sometimes we have the same problems, the same issue year after year. We tend to have the same thing. And we wonder why, why is this happening to me again? Why does this always seem to happen to me? And the truth is because we keep holding on, whether it's to a belief or stuff, and we just keep stuck and keep repeating the same things over and over again. This whole idea of spring cleaning is powerful because it's a law of renewal. It's a law of recreating. It's a law of keeping life fresh and active and alive, because the other way to keep holding on keeps us stuck and stifles us. And I say deadens the experience of life, where spring cleaning keeps it more alive and fresh. So when I was growing up, every single year, at least once, my mom made us go through our closet and give away or throw away stuff. And it was always painful because it was, I know there's holes in it, Mom, but I love that shirt. We have those attachments of stuff. But we did it every single year. And so we got accustomed to the whole practice of just letting go, going through this stuff, deciding what you want. And there are really 3 simple principles to it. Is keep the good stuff that fits, that you look good and you enjoy. Let go of the stuff that doesn't fit anymore and isn't any good. And then make room, and that'll make you lighter and brighter, to make room for new stuff. It's really quite simple. And so tonight, let's look at those 3 simple principles in how we can learn how to spring clean our relationships. And the first thing is, like, we would walk into our closet, so we'd have to look and check out and assess what's up. And same thing, we need to look at the closet of our relationships and ask ourselves, am I really happy with my relationship or relationships? To look at our relationships and say, does this relationship make me feel good? Is this relationship really working? Is this relationship fun and fulfilling? Or what isn't so fulfilling or isn't so fun? And so we need to, at some level, begin to have some awareness and consciousness, of the quality of our relationships. And really, the question is, how are we investing our energy? So in relationships, are we investing our energy to stay stuck in stuff, or are we releasing it to create new possibilities? So the first one is just very simple, is to you look at it and keep the good. So what relationships in your life are working? What relationships are making you feel happy? What feels like a good fit? And what is going well? And I always think you got to start focusing on the good. I think it's good to start with the good. Why? Because as human beings, we tend to look at what isn't working, what we don't have, what's wrong with them. I think sometimes it's better to start with what's good with them. What is working in that relationship? How does that person affirm me and make me feel supportive, supported? It makes me feel good, feels reaffirmed. And so I really think it's so important to take time to ask ourselves. I've had like 4 or 5 people recently in my life that I've actually gotten the opportunity to sit with and tell them why I love them and what is so great about my relationship with them, what their life does for me that makes me feel good. First one was my sister visited, I think just a week or 10 days ago. We had to have this fabulous breakfast just alone. And it was just so cool for me to hear what she was saying and what's going on with her life. And I think my sister is just one of the most inspiring, strong people that there is. She just finished her PhD. She's a great mom of 3 kids. She's done so much, and she's had so much to overcome. And I love that she's still working on herself, still wanting to get better. And that's a thing that I just find so inspiring. I mean, like with all of us, we're dealing with stuff. And some stuff from a long time ago, and I love that she's still willing to face it and be honest and to do her spiritual work. It's making her immediate family, healthier, and I think it's making our collective family. There are 10 kids, so there's a whole lot of dysfunction to go around, and so she's very inspiring. I think when one person in a relationship is willing to get healthier and do their inner work, it makes the whole system healthier. And so I got to tell her how inspired I am by her. My best friend, I've gotten a chance to tell her how safe I feel with her. I mean, I've never had someone just love me. No matter where I am, I'll moan and whine or cry about some thing that you just need a safe place. And she'll always say, buddy, I love you right where you are. She never says, oh, buck up. Come on, you're a minister, or all this kind of stuff. She's always, buddy, I love you right there. And I can't tell you how safe that makes me feel to know that she loves me when I'm not on my A game, that she absolutely loves me and supports me when I don't feel my best self, when I'm moaning and whining about stuff. And so to be able to share these things with people, the good stuff, because there's good stuff in all of our relationships. And the question is, are you willing to acknowledge it and feel that good feeling in you, but also are you willing to share with that person? Just to tell them, I really appreciate this about you, or that quality really inspires me, or I feel so cared for when you say this, or when you do that. So the first thing this week is someone in your life, I just want you to think to yourself, what's really good about the relationship? And then in some way tell them, appreciate and celebrate that with them. Honor and acknowledge them. Because I guarantee you, it will do nothing but good for you and for them and for the relationship. Second one is to decide what you want to throw out and what you want to get rid of. Because the truth is, there's a lot of stuff we hold on to in relationships. And sometimes there are a lot of things that go unspoken. Sometimes you're so busy in life, some hurtful thing comes up, and then you end up not saying it, and you just go on with the next day, and then the next day, and the next day. And there are a lot of things that get swept under the rug. There are a lot of things that we stew on, but we never actually tell them how we feel. And then when we think about it, we think, oh, well, they'll get mad, and we get afraid that they'll get mad, and so we don't do it. And whether it's about money, or whether it's about family, or whether it's some philosophical difference, we tend to stuff our stuff. And we actually don't share our feelings, our needs, our wants, and desires. And so what happens is we begin to pretend that we're happy when we're not. We begin to be inauthentic and become the person we think that they would be to be pleasant around. And what happens? We really just build a wall. Because sometimes we don't like having uncomfortable conversations. You remember the book I did, The Top Regrets of the Dying, the Top 5 Regrets? Totally away from the regrets, there was one thing that really captured me. She said that, so this lady took care of people who were dying, like in their last 3 to 12 weeks of living. And she said what was interesting was the families never talked about death. But what happened was the family would talk to her about dying, and the loved one would talk to her about dying, but neither would talk to each other about dying. So there's the person dying, scared about dying, wondering how their family's feeling about dying, but wouldn't say anything to their family about dying. And then the family's thinking, I wonder what my loved one's feeling dying, and no one says anything to anyone. And that is the most harmful thing we can do in our relationship. Anybody ever read the book Real Love? Any Greg Bear stuff? You know what the whole premise of it is? Tell the truth. That's real love. Because when you tell the truth about what's going on, they know the truth of who you are, and they could love the authentic you and not the pretend you that's not sharing. Does this make sense? I'll tell you, the two things I think that stop relationships, not telling the truth and giving up and not trying anymore. Because once we close our hearts and stop investing ourselves, the party's over, or it's made a lot harder. And so when we look at our relationships, the first thing I think is, well, I don't want them to do that, don't want it them. But the question is how authentic are we being? Are we willing to let go of some of those old things and begin to share more of ourselves? Saw this friend, and he's like a corporate fixer. I don't know what the actual real title is. He's a guy that goes into a corporation that's dying, and then he starts selling off portions and laying off and does downsizing. He does all that just to save the company, really. And so he comes in and makes a lot of hard decisions that people hate. Ultimately, he saves the company, but he's very unpopular. They pay him buckets of money for it. And so I say to him, I said, wow, how does it get there that they need you? What went wrong in the company that they're hiring you for X million to make all these tough decisions? And he said, Richard, you know what happens? Why I'm called in there and why it's a mess, why I have to go make hard decisions, is because for years, people think it's one thing went wrong. He said, no, it was little decisions, little tough decisions along the way that they chose not to make. Saying the tough thing, having the difficult conversation, sharing important information that people should have known, and they withheld it over and over again till things were a mess. That nobody said what needed to be said. Nobody called anybody on anything. And because there was a lack of communication, company goes down. He gets paid millions of bucks to make some decisions that were simple decisions that could have been made. Does this make sense, everyone? So the point I'm trying to make here is when you wave off, I'm not going to share that today. I'll wait till tomorrow. What we're doing is slowly building a big mess where our relationship suddenly just doesn't work anymore. And it's over and it's done. And the question is, are we willing to just be more present and just be honest? Because if they're going to go, they're going to go anyway. In sharing the truth, you may as well open your heart and just see what's real and allow yourself to experience real love. So let's talk about this whole idea, spring cleaning our relationships, that sometimes there are relationships we need to let go. Sometimes a relationship that don't serve our highest good, that we've tried and it's toxic and it's not our best, and we need to lovingly release that individual and lovingly release ourselves. I think we've all seen people who have held on to relationships for a long time and they were just holding on, but it really wasn't healthy. And so to me, that's a very, very powerful and important thing, is to know when it's time to let go, to know when it's time to release it to its highest good, to do our healing work, to bless them, and to move on to create something even greater and even better. Ayala Van Zandt once said that people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And just because it doesn't last forever doesn't mean that it didn't serve an important role in our lives. Sometimes it made us stronger and set better boundaries. Sometimes, it gave us some kind of encouragement. But whatever it is, we can't just devalue relationships because they didn't last and overvalue them. I think they're all important. Different relationships serve different purposes in our lives. And sometimes some need to be released and let go. Does this all make sense, everybody? Go through, keep what you want. Let go of what needs to be released. And here's the thing that needs to release, is that many of us have hurts and pains from last relationships that we sometimes take into these relationships. Let me give you an example. I saw this beer commercial once, and there's a lot of wisdom in beer commercials. I just want to say that. But here, so the lady comes into a bar and sees a good-looking guy across the bar. So she's sitting there, and she's looking at the bar, and she's attracted. And the bubbles, the bubble thing comes, and so she sees she and the guy start dating. Things are going well. They're driving in a convertible to the beach and blah, blah, blah. And all this happiness is going on in her head. And then she sees the guy cheat on her, and she gets mad and they break up. And then, so that's all in the bubble. Then she gets up from the actual real chair, walks over to the guy, and slaps him in the face. And the point I'm trying to make is, the sometimes we let the old stuff in our relationship affect the new thing. We judge the new person by the old situation. And so that's the stuff we need to let go. So we need to leave and let go and hold on that, let go of that old stuff. You know, sometimes we get to a place, I've heard people say stuff like, you know, I don't trust men, or I can't trust this, or I always get hurt in a relationship. We haven't even started the thing yet, and we're already setting it up. Why? Because we're still stuck in the past. And so sometimes we need to ask ourselves, what do I need to heal from the past? Before I begin this new thing, what do I need to let go to make sure I'm whole, complete, and lacking in nothing, and entering a relationship and giving it a real chance, because it's got no chance if we're still living out of the old situation or the old patterns. All this making sense, everybody? Okay. Because I just made it up, and this is all I got. Roger's left me with this tough topic, and I'm winging it. So anyway, you know, and we need to ask ourselves question is like, how am I showing up in this relationship? Like, am I spending a lot of time on my iPhone? You know, am I spending too much time watching TV? You know, do I never ask him or her how her day was? And sometimes we need to have a real look, not just at the past, but how are we showing up in this one? Are there ways that we could be more loving, more aware, more kind, more thoughtful? You know, and it takes work, but it's important work. And some of these things are some self-evaluation and stuff we really need to release. So the final one is we need to make room. We need to make room for new possibilities. And we need to ask ourselves, what new am I going to bring to the game? What is something new that I'm going to do? And I'll tell you, you know what one of the most powerful things is? Just being present. Last night at my prosperity class, we had a guest come in. He's a PhD. He's a PhD in play therapy. He works with children in play therapy to help them get over things. Do you know he said the number one thing of helping kids is being present? He said when you're with kids, they know when you're present and they know when you're not. That he said people think it's all mystical and hard about kids. If you're just right there with them, they're right there with you. Diane Sawyer once said, my 4-year-old, my grade 4 teacher gave me the greatest gift I ever had, or the best gift I had up until that point. And the reporter asked her what it was. She said, she gave me her undivided attention. And that might not sound like a lot, but it is the most powerful gift we can give someone, because it's about us being present with our heart open and saying that we care and I'm right here, right where you are. So think of one thing that you can do in your current or future relationship that you know that would take your game to another level. That would be a quality that will add something beautiful, that will make your relationships more fulfilling and more engaging. It could be listening. It could be being present. It could be being more encouraging or more kind or thoughtful or compassionate. It could be anything. The question is, what is it that you feel called to create some new room to bring new to the table in your next relationship? Psychology Today article by Marcia Lucas, she said something very interesting. She said, daily meditation rewires the brain for better relationships. She said people who meditate report reduced stress as well as improved communication, empathy, insight, and intuition, all of which help create healthier relationships. She said if you want to do something good for your relationship, take 5 or 10 minutes and meditate every day. The more we're centered in God, the more we're centered in peace, the more we're connected to love, the more we feel a sense of joy, we show up better in relationships. We show up better in life. We show up better for ourselves. Isn't that an interesting thing? Meditate, and it will make you better and open for a more fulfilling relationship. And the third thing is about knowing what it is that you want. What does that great relationship look like for you? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do you want? Here's a story I heard. A department store opened in New York City that sold men and women to its visits to individuals who were searching for a husband. It was a husband store. And at the store's entrance, there's a sign outlining the department store policy. The first rule states that you can only enter the store once. There are 6 floors, and each floor you can choose a husband or select to move on to the next floor. You cannot visit a floor more than once, other than when you leave the building. The woman came in, and she decided to visit the first floor. The sign said, men with jobs. She checked it out and decided to move on to the next level. And so she went to the second floor, and it said, men with jobs that adore children. So she thought, wow, that's good, but I think I could do better. So she moves on to the third floor, and the sign there says, wealthy men that adore children and are very handsome. She thinks, wow, this is a great deal. It's incredible, but I bet I could do better. So she goes to the fourth floor, and it says, wealthy men that adore children are very handsome and help with chores around the house. She thought, oh, this is incredible. I love this. It's what I want. And she thought, maybe there's something better. So she decides to go up to the next floor. And it says, wealthy men that adore children are very handsome, help with chores, and are very romantic. She's like, yes, this is what I want. And then she's about to purchase, and then she thinks, you know what? Let me go up to the 6th floor and see what that is, any better than this. So she gets up to the 6th floor, and the sign says, you are visitor number 31,456,012 to this floor. There are no men here. This floor exists as proof that women are impossible to please. So, okay. That was a long way for a bad joke. Wasn't that a long way to go for a bad joke? To make a simple point of what is it that you want? Nobody's perfect, but what is your ideal of a great relationship? What is your ideal of a great friendship? What is your ideal of what a harmonious and fulfilling, wonderful family is like? It's good to have an ideal. It's good to have a vision and intention. It is much better to focus on what it is you desire and want to create than to hold energy and complain about what you don't have. The fact is, relationships are not easy. They're complex. They're challenging. But the fact is, we have the power to improve them. You know, everybody gets stuck in a rut. Somebody once said, the only thing I don't like about life is it's just so daily. And the fact is, relationships are daily. Love is daily. It is a daily choice. And yes, we as human beings sometimes get in a rut, and we need to do some spring cleaning. And it's not to feel guilty or ashamed. It's a part of being human. The question is when those ruts happen, are you willing to do the spring cleaning? Are you willing to renew? Are you willing to look at what's good? Are you willing to look at what you need to let go? And are you willing to make some room to create something new and something even better? Relationships are the best thing in the world because they're about love. And that's why we're all here. So let's take time to do our spring cleaning in our relationships. Let's pray. Right, close our eyes, take a deep breath. And just open our heart to God's love. Knowing that one of the greatest gifts that God has given us is not just this gift of love, but the gift of each other. To be in relationship, to open our hearts to care and to listen, and to learn how to heal and move through difficult times and conversations. Knowing that in all times and in all ways, we are all one. Every one of us is a child of God seeking love, seeking fulfillment, seeking happiness. And so as we open our hearts to God's love, we open our hearts to allow the relationships in our lives to help heal us, to help renew us and refresh us, and to expand us to be even greater beacons of light and love in our families, in our work, in our community, and in our world. So we give thanks for all of our relationships, for all the healing and transformation and all the good that will come forth from them. And so it is. Amen.